today's bag making class. So in today's bag making class, you're going to be doing a handbag and we're using jute fabrics. All right, but before we go on, I'd like to say a massive thank you for subscribing to our channel and for viewing our videos as well. This has been a good support to the mission and for the reason why this channel was set up. So thank you very much. And if you're watching me for the first time and you've not yet subscribed to our channel, I would advise that you subscribe and hit on the notification bell so that you'll be notified anytime a new video is uploaded. So like I said, today we're doing another handbag and the fabric I'm using is jute fabric. So I'm going to talk to you about all the materials for this project. But before we go on, I'm going to show you the fabric I'm using. So this is jute, okay, and as you can see, this particular jute fabric is quite porous, so there are spaces in it. Now if we should be putting or sandwiching our foam in there, you're going to be seeing the blue background through the jute, and that is not the effect I wanted. So what I had gone ahead to do was to give my jute fabric some reinforcement. Okay, so this is the reinforcement I gave it as in the cotton fabric, and the same cotton fabric will be used as the lining. So I decided to cut the same size of the jute I cut and stitch it all around, okay, as reinforcement or as a backing, so the jute is not as porous to the materials for today's project. So you're going to be needing your jute fabric if you want to use jute, but you can go by any other fabric, cotton or brocade, whatever you want to use. But if you want the exact effect you're going to be seeing today, then you have to go by the jute fabric. So jute fabric, then you get some craft foam, which is what we always use in giving our bag stability. Okay, and for me, this is the handle I'm using. And you get some hardware. All right, so it's also entirely up to you what kind of hardware you want to use, but you see the effect in the end, and then you can decide what kind of hardware you're going for. You need your measuring tools, tape measure, ruler, your cutting tools, and then of course your sewing machine. All right, so this is a stencil. Let me talk to you about the stencil. So this is going to serve as the main body of the bag. All right, first cut a 10.5 by 10.5 inches. So you're going to have a square, and then you're going to round this up here. And this is going to serve as the flap of the bag. So it's going to be a throwover on top of it like that. Okay, so for the flap, you cut 10.5 inches by 9 inches. Okay, then you put it into two, measure 6.5, and at that point, you cut your slash like that as a slant. Okay, and then when you finish, you level this up. So it's quite simple. Then let's grab our fabrics now. So you're going to be extending all of these onto your fabric. So like I said, I'm using jute, and because it's quite porous, I've given it some reinforcement with another fabric at the bottom. All right, so leave about half an inch all the way around, but at the top here you can see that I've left enough at the top here, and I'll explain to you why I've left enough at the top here. So at the top here, you're going to be leaving about 2 inches. You're going to cut 2 of those. So I have 2 of those. So this is for my front and this is for my back. Okay, 2 of those. I'm going to set that on the side, then we come and cut the flap. So this is what I have for the flap as well. Half an inch or 1 inch on the sides, all around it should be enough. Now let's come back to doing the side of the bag. I've measured the area going around the bag, which gave me 27.5 inches. So this area is what I measured, and that gave me 27.5 inches. And then I cut it on my foam. All right, so it was 3 inches wide, 27.5 inches long. Now you realize that you may not have all of that length in your foam, so you have to join it at some point to have 27.5 inches for the foam. Okay, then I have gone ahead to cut my fabric for it. Right, and I think I had left 1 inch space all around my half an inch space, should even be enough, all around my reinforcement. So we're going to go ahead to cut our lining for everything else, and then we can start stitching. Okay, so now I have all the lining cut for the pieces. I want to draw your attention to one thing I have done here. Okay, so you will realize that the lining for the main body of the bag is 1 inch shorter. All right, is 1 inch shorter, and that is how I wanted it to be. So what I'm going to do now is to match the right sides of my fabric, so right against right, and I'm going to be joining this at the top here. Okay, and I'm only running a top stitch, so I'm running just 1 stitch up here. Just that is what I'm doing for now for the body, and then do the same thing for the other half of the body as well. So right on right, and then run a stitch just at the top. Okay, you make sure that your stitch you're going to run is hiding this second stitch. Okay, let me bring you up to speed on what I have done. Okay, so I have connected the lining to the top of the main body of the bag like that, and then when I finished, I did a top stitch. Okay, I did a top stitch. Now what we're going to do next is to sandwich the foam inside the bag like that. Okay, make sure you position it right, and then you bring this over it like that. Okay, so this is where the 2 inch measurement we left is going to come in. So this pulls part of your main fabric in here, and then it gives it a good top finish here at the top. All right, so you're going to drop this down and make sure that everything is neatly done, and then we will hold it down with some pins. All right, I'm going to show you what I have done with one of them so that you would see. So I put some pins in place to keep the foam in a stable position so that it doesn't move, and then I have just run a stitch to hold everything together, still with my pins in, and then I've trimmed it all down. All right, I'm waiting to join the sides, so I'm going to do the same thing to this other half here. All right, I'm setting this on the side, and then I'll talk to you about the top and what I have done. So I have stitched the lining of the top to it. As you can see, what I did in the end was to trace the shape of the top here and then stitch around it to be sure that we are getting a perfect shape, because we need to get this pointy edge here. Now I've done that. I'm going to turn this inside out and then iron it flat. Okay, and then sandwich the foam in it, and then bring it back for you to see. All right, so let me bring you up to speed with what I've been doing so far. So I'm working on the strip now. I've only stitched the ends. Okay, so here and there, that's all I have done for this one. I'm going to turn it inside out. So I'm going to run a top stitch here first, and then a top stitch here first. Then I'll turn it inside out. I'm going to sandwich my foam like that. And just like I did for the main body of the bag, I'm going to stitch the sides and then the sides, and then we leave it there. Okay, so I'm going to bring this back. I did some pockets, 3 of them, and then I stitched a handmade tag to it. I'm going to give you the measurement for the pocket now in a minute. Okay, so this step is entirely up to you. You can skip it or you can keep it. It's entirely up to you. So it's around 4.5 inches long and 6 inches wide. Okay, 3 of them. You can do 3 of them, you can do 2 of them, you can skip it entirely. That's up to you. So I did that in leather and I stitched it. I don't want to have a stitch at the back here, so what I'm going to do is just to apply some elastic glue here and there, and like always attach it to the bag like that. I've also gone ahead to do, this is a kind of embellishment for the flap of the bag. Okay, so I just cut a piece and then I have done a stitch on top of it also as an embellishment, but I'm going to be using glue on just these sides to attach it to this bit here, so that will serve as the embellishment. So those were the bits I did off camera and then I've brought you up to speed to it. I'm going to go ahead and work on the strip and then bring it back here before we start assembling everything. So I have attached the flap of the bag to half of the body of the bag. Okay, so I did my pockets, and I also attached the other piece of the bag to this, and then I covered the mess with some leather. Okay, some matching leather. The next step is to put in our closures. All right, and I'm going to be using two hardwares here. This one is just for decorative purposes, and then these ones here, the male and the female, will be the actual closures. So I'll fit the male and the female as the actual closures first, then I fix the decorative one on top of the leather and then attach it to the flap. You see me do that in a minute. But let's say you don't want to go through all of that because it can be quite cumbersome. What you can do is to attach the leather to the flap here and then use these closures. All right, so as a one-off, attach the top one up here and then attach the bottom, that's the female, to the other part of the bag. Okay, and that can also be a very brilliant effect, but I want to go for this effect just because I want to show you how to set this and that, which obviously would have been quite similar to this one here as well. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and then set my main closure and then we'll do the decorative one. So for the main closure, my nail is going to go on the top, so I'm going to decide where I'm going to fit that here. Okay, and in doing that, I'm going to put this bag here into two just to try and find the center of the bag, and I can see a crease here, so I know it's going to be somewhere here. Right, I'm going to be deciding between these lines where to fix the male closure, and then I will make my punch holes over there. So I've done my punch holes. If you can see, I've done the punch holes. I'm going to be bringing the blade on top of it and then either press them together or apart. That's entirely up to you. You can either decide to press the legs apart or you press them towards each other like I have done. Okay, let's then press it down so that it's not actually poking through the top layer. So that is what we did. In doing this, you don't get to see this messy bit, and the leather covers that up for you as well. Okay, so this is what we will have from the inner bit here. Okay, now before we do that, I'm going to have to set this one as well before we actually attach it to before we actually attach the leather to the other half of the bag. Glue this down on the edges and then we take it from there. All right, so I've connected all the pieces and I finished the inside of the bag with some bias strip. Okay, with some bias strip. I'm going to turn it inside out and then we take it from there. So I finished the inside of the bag. As you can see, I finished it off with some bias strip all of the inside, and then I've also had to finish the edges with some bias strip. You don't have to do that. This is entirely up to you if that is what you choose to do. But the reason why I did the edging like this is because my main fabric had too many holes. It was too big a hole, and then it didn't give the edges a good finish. So I've had to use bias strips just to finish all of the edges beautifully like that. Now the next thing to do is to fix the female part of the closure. So I have indicated where that is going to go with my tailor's chalk, and I'm going to pick the female part, try and find out where the legs are going to be, and then I'm going to make my holes over there by snipping it with my cutter. So you have to be really sure where you want them to be before you make those holes in there. Okay, so I'm going to push that in, get the other end of it, which is supposed to be the blade, and then close it up. Finally come to the end of today's project. That's all it. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to give our video a thumbs up. Don't forget to share them as well. Until we meet again in our next video.